And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Yes, it's another edition of Tell Al Tuesday, and I have Shawn and Heather coming back. The last time I had them on the show was in September of 2021. You know, we were kind of in the middle of a pandemic. I think we were trying to pull out of a pandemic, but we had a great time together, and they shared their experiences with you. So what I've done today is I've asked them to come back on the show. I want them to share some of those experiences that they shared last time with you, because I know some of you are new to the show and maybe you don't have that relationship with them yet. Not a problem. We're going to fix all that today. You're going to get inside the minds of two very successful real estate investors who just happen to be married to each other. Now, when Shawn became a member back in 2008, Heather was not in the picture yet. Shawn was doing what Shawn needed to do, and he stumbled across Lifestyles Unlimited on the radio, and he started listening to the things that our founder and CEO, Del Walmsley, had to say. And as a result of that, he took an interest in Lifestyles Unlimited, and he came and he checked it out, and lo and behold, he became a member of Lifestyles Unlimited. So here's the beautiful thing about Shawn. He had absolutely no real estate investing experience prior to coming to Lifestyles. You know why I think that's great? It's because he didn't have any bad habits. See, I had owned real estate prior to becoming a member of Lifestyles Unlimited, and the first thing I learned when I went through the educational program was that I was doing a lot of things really wrong, and I had to fix that. Now, Shawn didn't have that kind of baggage. As a matter of fact, he got to work buying single family. And I'll tell you what we're going to do now. We're going to bring Shawn and Heather onto the show. I want Shawn to pick up the story, and I want you to understand why he made a decision to buy rental real estate while continuing to rent himself. It's a very, very important piece of his story. So welcome to the show, Shawn and Heather. I'm really interested in getting caught up with you guys because I know you bought that 153-unit property in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm really interested in hearing how that thing's turning out. But before we get into that, come on, Shawn, give me the background. What was going on back in 2008? What were you doing for a job? Why this real estate stuff? Why not just do what everybody else is doing? Put your money in the 401k.
Hey, yeah, that's right. In fact, I was doing that, but I was in the space program here in Houston, and my ultimate goal was just to make a higher return or a better return on my investment. And I just didn't have confidence in the stock market. Didn't know. I'd go to bed at night, didn't know if the stocks would go up or stocks would go down, and ultimately just didn't have control over my investments, my 401k with the company I was in. And I said, there's got to be another way. And so I was listening to the radio. And, of course, the radio show had 85% of them were related to stocks. And then I heard Del, and I said, well, this is more interesting. You know, you could buy real estate, you could rent it out, it appreciates, and there's all these other benefits associated with real estate. And it really caught my attention. And so I joined and I went to the 2-day, got educated. And, of course, I knew that real estate in my mind had appreciated over time because when I grew up, my family had 2 different houses, and each time they sold their house, it doubled, but they never rented it out. And I said, well, if I can do the same thing but rent it out and get what we call mailbox money, that's another feather in the cap. And I wanted to learn more about it, and so I got educated. And once I got educated, I just went out and executed and just started growing and growing and growing. And that was my initial goal, was just to make a higher return on my investment. And then after I started acquiring single-family properties, my next goal was to be able to retire. And so I had to acquire enough to make that passive income substantial enough to where I could retire. And then once I was able, myself and Heather were able to retire, then our next goal was just to add value into people's lives. And that's what we do today.
So here's the question I've got for you, Shawn. You started off doing single family. I mean, you bought single family assets, but you didn't own a house yourself. Why did you do that?
Well, I mean, of course, I didn't have money to buy a house, so all I could do was rent. And I felt the timing was just right for me to go using and putting money into a house for a primary residence, I could go purchase a house and get appreciation, but also get that rental income. And so I did that. I acquired a couple of homes, and to the point where my rental income that I was getting from my rental houses was enough to pay for my mortgage at the time when I actually bought my primary residence. So I was living basically mortgage free, and that was the goal.
Do you think back in that time period it was easier for you to get a loan as an investor without having personal debt for a primary residence? Do you think that made it a little bit easier for you, or was something else going on in the background?
No, I mean, of course, every situation is different. I had good credit, so I could buy a primary residence, or I could buy a rental property. I just felt that instead of just tying my money up into a primary residence, it was more economically advantageous for me to go buy some rental properties. Back then, I think I was putting 10% down. I was buying these homes in 2008, 2009, and so on. I was paying roughly 50, 60 grand for these homes that are now worth, a lot more. And so I didn't have to put that much down relative to what you would today. And so I just did that. And then as I grew, there was Fannie Mae requirements, and it was easier for me to just consolidate several of these loans into one commercial blanket loan under an LLC, and then I could go do it again, and just kept growing that way, and had fun doing it, and learned all the way. And I couldn't have done it without Lifestyles with their educational classes, Dell providing great insight, and of course the mentors. The mentors at Lifestyles basically walked me through this entire process, because as I mentioned earlier, I had no real estate experience. And they walked me through, whether it was from locating a property, evaluating, underwriting these deals, putting offers in, and then once you buy the property, then you got to make it the best product at the best price. And of course, there's somebody in Lifestyles who's done it, and they're ready to help you out. And so I was very thankful, and Heather and I are still thankful today for all the expertise we've received from the mentors and the team at Lifestyles.
How many houses did you wind up buying in those early years?
It ended up being 16 throughout the greater Houston area. Of course, I was down in the space program in Houston, so down in Clear Lake, and I was buying properties from up in Conroe, down to Texas City, League City, and then over to Matagorda, and I had properties in between. Logistically, with a full-time job, it just became a challenge to manage and operate all these properties by myself, because I didn't have a team. I couldn't afford a team. And so trying to answer phone calls at work or going to the property, we just felt it was easier if we could sell these properties, consolidate all these doors into one parking lot, hire a team to be able to lease and maintain these units. If we could do that, let's go do that. And of course, that's apartments. And so that's what we did. We started selling the houses and taking those funds to go buy apartments.
So at this point, Heather's in the picture. I mean, Heather, you're fully educated, you're immersed into the Lifestyles community, or are you a skeptic at this point?
No, I was on board. I mean, I trusted Shawn, and I had started to get educated by Lifestyles and was understanding that, and and us trying to research and locate our first multifamily property, and understanding that process. It was a lot of information, but Lifestyles, walks you through that, and willing to learn from our mistakes and not be fearful of it. So no, not much of a skeptic. I felt pretty confident in kind of our partner in Lifestyles to help us through that.
Okay, so at that time period in your life, you've obviously kind of revised your plan, Shawn, because now Heather's a part of it. So what is your game plan for retirement? Are you still on like a 5-year get retired streamline, or did your gates change on you?
I mean, I just tell you, I'll tell you what we did. I don't know what the plan never changed. It was, of course, ultimately started out was trying to make above average rate of return on our investment. Second goal would be to retire, and then third goal would be add value in people's lives. It was just we got to take the right steps to get to those next levels, to those next gates. The gates never changed. We still had the same gates. It was just, got to go find the asset. We got to go find like-minded folks and lifestyles who are willing to invest with us and trust us with their money, and so we can grow our business. We've got to hire staff and grow a staff and grow a company. And so there was, of course, new challenges along the way to grow and expand your business, but the gates never changed.
So now you guys are using economies of scale. You've realized that single family is a really good vehicle to get you where you want to be, but it may not be the vehicle that you ride all the way into the sunset, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so now you're focused on multifamily. Why did you choose a 68-unit apartment community in Baytown, Texas as your first asset?
This is an interesting story. So I was actually closing on a single-family residence, one of the 16 that we had bought. And I'm at closing at the title company. And I actually had a tour for a small, very small apartment community in Houston the following day. And so the Lifestyles broker had called me and was just going to confirm, our planned appointment to go take a look at an apartment the next day. And I told the title company lady, sorry, but can you hold on and take this call just to confirm our appointment? And so I hung up, and she says, "Oh, you're buying apartments." I said, "Well, we're selling these houses to go buy an apartment." She said, "Well, that's interesting. I have a friend, you probably won't be interested, but I have a friend who's thinking about selling his apartment complex. In fact, let me give you his name and number, and you can just call him and, maybe go look at his property, if he wants to sell." And so hung up the phone and closed on the single family title, got out in the parking lot, called the gentleman, toured the next day, and then we were working on a LOI the following day. So never know how this stuff is going to fall in your lap, and when it does, you got to be ready. So I was very thankful to God for those blessings.
Absolutely. Heather, I got to ask you, Shawn's making this real estate stuff seem pretty easy. Are you on board still?
Well, I think at that point I was about 8 months pregnant, and who knows what I was thinking. Or
now, this is your first child, right?
Yes, that was our first child.
Okay, so let's frame this picture here. Heather's 8 months pregnant. Shawn has just found a 68-unit apartment community, and I will tell you, the story gets even more interesting, but you're not going to hear the results till we come back after this.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
I created these case studies 30 years ago for this reason. You're the accountant, you're the CPA, you're the engineer, the IT guy. Do you follow what I'm saying? You're that little quiet cubicle guy. And you don't see yourself as a rich millionaire. So I have to bring the cubicle people up here. And you go, "Honey, look, he's got the same shoes I have on, right? And he speaks in the same language that I speak in." And you've got to be able to see somebody you can relate to or relate with for this to work. Part of the reason I want you to speak to other people is because half of your, I'd say, challenge is that you don't believe you can be rich. Is that you don't believe you can retire within 5 years. Until you can reconcile that in your mind, you won't be willing to take the steps necessary to get there.
Join us today. Check for in-person and online dates at lukstudy.com.
Listening to Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show will change your life. Now, here's your host.
Welcome back to the second half of the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon, and on Tell Al Tuesday, I have Shawn and Heather with me. And they're in the middle of a very interesting story about how Shawn was able to find this 68-unit apartment community that he wanted to buy. This was the asset that was going to allow him to transition from single family into multifamily. It kind of just fell into his lap. And, oh, by the way, Heather is 8 months pregnant as all of this is going down. So come on, guys, pick up the story and tell me what Shawn wound up doing while Heather was in the process of bringing your first child into the world.
Right. Well, and Shawn had brought all of this information to me, and, thinking about a 68-unit property sounded, like a dream come true to us for our first property, because it was just the right size where you could have one office staff and you could have one maintenance on site, which sometimes, can pose challenges if it isn't big enough. And so that, I think, also allowed us to feel very confident going into that, while we had to learn HR and hiring. And now, okay, you can have two people on there. How do you pay them? How do you train them? How do you find them? And then it's about 30 minutes from where we live, so being able to travel there. So all of that, gave us confidence to do that. And then our first child came 4 weeks early. That was a surprise. And then Shawn had already said the next day, I'm so sorry, sweetie, I have to leave and go sign the contract for Villas. And then, doing some work from the hospital bed because our child was in the NICU, and then Shawn had left. And then the adventure just, began then, and it's still been an adventure till this day today.
So Shawn, as part of your PowerPoint briefing to Heather, did you plan to have a child in the middle of buying your first multifamily apartment community?
Oh, sure, Al. Why wouldn't you? You got to keep things exciting. No, I mean, we're blessed by God with, the kids we have, and just very thankful that we have them.
Yeah, amen to that. Amen to that. So, I mean, let's talk about family a little bit. How has real estate changed your lives so that you're able to focus more of your time on your family?
When we had our first child, and then knowing we were going to be able to acquire Villas at the Palms, the 68-unit property, allowed me to retire first, and then, grow that. And then, then as we acquired more, then allowed Shawn to retire as well in 2018.
So,
yeah, and so since Heather was able to retire in 2016, she was able to stay, with our youngest or our oldest now. But she was able to stay home with our oldest, and take our daughter, various places in the neighborhood, and spend more quality time with her. And she had more control of her time, and she could manage what the activities would be versus, not having that freedom or that that time. And that's what we've enjoyed. It's kind of like flying a plane, right? I mean, you have all this freedom when you're up in the air, but you're also totally accountable. So, yeah, it's great to be able to drive your ship and control the path of where you're going, but you're also accountable. And so we thrive in that environment. And, it's been great with all the kids, whether it's, being able to have time to coach their soccer team, or just take them to various events, spend time at the pool with them, take them on road trips, RVing in Yellowstone. And, during COVID, when everything was shut down, we just RV'd. We rented a Suburban and just drove from here to Heather's folks in Utah, and went across, all these different national parks, and spend the night in some beautiful places, and just had a great time. And we were able to do that because while we're doing it, we're able to coordinate with our staff and have our meetings and operate properties from afar, because we already hired the team to be there on site for us, but we can still, as the owners of the company, we still execute from afar.
So that 68 unit apartment community, that was the catalyst that caused Heather to retire. Am I getting that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and then in 2018, you guys really went to town. You bought 3 more apartment communities. Shawn, by buying those, was that the catalyst to help you achieve retirement, or were you able to officially retire before you acquired all 3 of those?
No, it was at the end. It was we acquired a 21 unit next in 2018. We were going to close in 2017, but there was a lot of rain that came into Houston from Hurricane Harvey and kind of delayed some things. So once the dust settled and everything dried up, we were able to close early in 2018. Then we closed on our largest property in July of 2018, and then we closed on a 75 unit in December of 2018. So I was able to retire once we closed on our 216-unit property in July of 2018, to where I could just focus full time, as a lead investor on our property, because once you get a certain amount of units and you're a lead investor, you need to really focus on the business and managing the properties, managing the investors, and it requires a lot of work and a lot of time as a full-time lead investor. And so to want to do that, I had to be able to retire. So the one in July of 2018 allowed me to retire to just focus full-time on multifamily. And Heather retired, like we said, in 2016.
It's pretty clear to me that and you said it yourself, you could have retired anywhere along the line. You just weren't ready to do it. And Heather, we know for a fact that Shawn was just waiting to find you because he needed you in his life to give him some direction. Fair enough?
Right. And I love that he was like, I could have, and then I met Heather.
It's amazing how bringing somebody into your life can totally transform what's important to you. And obviously, you're very important to him because he focused on you and getting you retired. And I'm guessing that had a great effect on your family, did it not?
Yes, it did, allowing that freedom and flexibility. And also, we now have 3 kids, and the example we get to set for them, and they are now, getting involved in the apartments, stopping by and helping out over breaks and different things, but getting to show them, we want to show them that finding something you're passionate about and working towards goals. And having fun while doing that, which is why, we've stayed in it and have enjoyed it.
So in 2020, the United States of America joined the rest of the world, and we went into what was supposed to be a 2-week lockdown that turned into about a 2-year lockdown. But you guys did something amazing. You went out in the middle of a pandemic, and you bought a 153-unit apartment community. What was going through your mind at that time?
Yeah, we actually bought it in January of 2020 before everything got shut down. So we were, maybe a month and a half or so before everything shut down. So, here we were buying this property that was, I think, roughly 53% occupied at the time. They needed a lot of TLC, and that was our plan, was that, it was a big value add opportunity. And so that's why we bought it. And because we already had the 216 units literally just down the street. So we knew the submarket, and we were ready to grow in that submarket. Yeah, and then, then everything shut down. So things changed pretty quickly, and there were some other challenges along the way, like, we couldn't evict people, and then this whole rental assistance program kicked in, and everybody got dependent on the monetary heroin and all this the rental assistance they were getting. And luckily we came out, on the other side. And I mean, we've really increased the value of this property from when we took it over. I mean, currently we're sitting at, 92%, I believe, occupied currently. And, we took it over just before COVID started, and we were in the 50s. And, we renovated 38 units. When I say renovate, I'm talking about, new countertops, new bathtubs, new tub surrounds, new appliances, new flooring, new cabinets, microwaves. I mean, it was a full renovation for 38 units. So it took us, I want to say, about 3 months or so to get those 38 units online. But once we did that, we had a huge rent bump because of the new amenities and just the new quality of the product as well. So we liked that rental increase, and of course that increased the value of the property once we collected that income.
What kind of rates of return are you receiving on that property?
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking the other day at I think just over the last year, the value of that property has gone up over $2 million just by us raising rents. Because as we know, the market right now, interest rates are very, very high, and so a lot of our residents aren't able to buy a house. And so what do they need? They need a place to stay. So they're going to rent an apartment. During COVID, or during times when maybe rates were lower, we were seeing people leave, and maybe our occupancy ticked down a little bit. Maybe our rents went down a little bit because people were competing with people who were trying to leave to go buy a house. But in today's market, we're across our portfolio, we're at the highest occupancy rate we've ever had since we acquired our first 68 units. So we like where it's at. We like where it's going. And, we have a lot of unrealized capital gains in our properties. Our first property, our 68 unit, we've returned over 100% back to our investors, and the other ones just keep, we provide those distributions quarterly, and when they get them, our investors are very thankful, and we hope to keep doing that.
Well, I think you guys are doing a great job because the word on the street amongst the Lifestyles Unlimited passive investor community, which I'm a proud member of, is, when Shawn and Heather get another deal, you should be in it. So, I mean, you're doing great stuff, not only for your fellow investors, you are doing great things for the community. And that's important to you. I mean, you don't treat your residents like just, anybody off the street. You actually care about your residents, do you not?
Yes, and I think that starts, our team genuinely knows that we care for them and they care for the residents, and, procedures we have in place and events and how quickly we get work orders done, and communication is all very key. And, grateful that you just gave us that compliment, but, the properties also have these wonderful reputations of that they respect you, they treat you right. They want genuinely good things for you, and we recognize the important role we hold of providing these people a home and where they live, and we don't take that lightly.
Yeah, I think that's the key element to being a successful real estate investor, and it also prevents you from being the notorious slumlord, right?
Right.
Yeah. So how's the portfolio doing? I mean, are you willing to share the value of your portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely, Al. Yeah, I mean, we're thankful. I think it's roughly $46 million right now, our portfolio value. We have currently 550 units, roughly, 5 different properties here in the greater Houston area.
Shawn, back in 2008, when you bought that first little rental house, did you really think you were going to amass a portfolio worth $46 million in the next 10 years?
It was on the PowerPoint, Al. Absolutely.
I knew it was on the PowerPoint.
I mean, just to clarify, I mean, you can't jump from one to the other. I mean, it takes a lot of work, and you got to persevere, and you got to be willing to go do. Life is competitive and life is short, so pick your straw. And I'm trying to help my family and grow our business as fast and as wise as possible. And starting out, spending a couple $3,000 or so to buy a $50,000 house back in 2008 to here now, trying to maintain and manage and grow a $46 million portfolio. So very thankful, and I've learned a lot. I mean, got to give credit to the Lifestyles and the team of Lifestyles and the mentors, and of course our investors who have been with us, and the ones we'll meet in the future. We're thankful for. If it wasn't for them and our amazing staff, and we've got an amazing property supervisor who does amazing work, and the folks that do the day-in-day operations for us, we're just thankful for everybody's either their efforts, their education, their communication, and most importantly, their execution. So we're so thankful.
So do you think if you had not turned on the radio and listened to Dell way back in 2007, would you still be a rocket scientist right now? I mean, would you still be doing the conventional thing?
No, if it wasn't Dell, it would have been George Strait. So I'd probably be on the circuit right now singing country music. Oh, would you like to share a little of your voice with us? No, like I said, Al, I'm not in the radio. No, if it wasn't for Lifestyles, we wouldn't be here. So, yeah, thanks to Dell for being on the radio back in, I think it was 2007 when I first started listening to him. And, just wise beyond his years, his entire life. So thankful he did all that back for us back then.
Yeah, I got to echo the sentiments because that's how I found Lifestyles, listening to the radio. Hey, I'll tell you what, if you want to do what Shawn and Heather have done as well as what I've done, go to lifestylesunlimited.com, sign up for one of our free workshops, and let's get you going.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.